Good afternoon. Um, Glad that you all could be here with us on today. I am the founder and CEO of Connecting in Unity. With we are trying to develop a platform where we can disseminate information to our community that would help them to prosper health, physically, mentally, spiritually. And we are glad just to be here to bring this together. Unity is what I believe is a great force to bring us together and be able to go through problems that are eclipsing our community. I have been through great things in my life and traumatic things in my life, and the unity of my family and God has helped me through that. And I believe that is something that's going to bless our community. At this time, we have three distinguished guests today with us, and they are taking their time to be with us and spend their knowledge and their valuable time with us. I'm just happy to have them with us. If I could, I would just wanted to say thank you to you all for being here. And if since this is kind of closing the last weekend of Women's Month, we're going to start off with our ladies today. Brother Mike, will you take it easy? We'll start off with our ladies today. And I would like if Kamara Seals will go first. Just tell us who you are, what you do, and just give us some background of your life right now.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me to this conversation on today. It's a very important conversation. My name is Kamara Seals, and I serve in numerous capacities, but I'm the policy director at the Arkansas Public Policy Panel, and we are a social and economic justice grassroots organization. A lot of the work I do is around social justice, trying to dismantle systems of systemic racism, and I work in policy. Policy is my passion. Laws, that's how we get change done, is through policy. And so I'm also very active. I'm a life member of the NAACP, which the work I do there ties into my career. And we are very actively engaged in fighting voter suppression laws in Arkansas. And we are just moving forth in that area and in that space. I have been doing some work around COVID-19 education, and we have been actively involved in a partnership with UAMS, where we are trying to get the word out, encourage people to be vaccinated and boosted, and just provide accurate information, especially to people in our communities because of the skepticism. So that's enough about me. I will, talk more about it later. But and I'm a mother and a grandmother. So right. Something that I'm one of the hats that I wear most proudly. So, and again, thank you for having me.
All right, thank you, Ms. Shields.
Also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that my work with UAPB. I am the National Alumni Association president.
Oh.
And so I would be remiss if I didn't mention that. And I know you are an alum of the university. So yeah, shout out to all the UAPB AM&N alums.
Yes. All right, thank you for that brief introduction. Ms. Adams.
Hello, thanks for having me. I am an educator, an advocate, and change agent. That's the introduction I love to use when given the opportunity to share my work. I am the CEO and founder of Therapy, Therapy is an organization with the mission to heal the hearts and minds through books and bears, one child at a time. So what we do is we highlight the importance of representation in text as it relates to teaching students in kindergarten through sixth grade. I've spent about 10 years in the education sector by way of Teach for America, where I was a kindergarten through fourth grade teacher. I've been an instructional coach where I've supported seventh, eighth, and ninth grade teachers. After leaving the K-12 space, I spent some time in nonprofit administration working for AR Kids Read. And just here recently, I decided to launch my own organization to support the representation of African-American and BIPOC characters in stories. And so I am a newly published children's book author. And I just think that the work that we do as representation of African-American and BIPOC people for education is so important, especially when we think about the social and emotional space that our African-American students live in. And so that is what I do. I enjoy it. And thank you for having me sit in on this conversation today.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. We appreciate you. Apostle Jenkins, could you enlighten us on your...
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I am Pastor Michael Jenkins. I'm the founder and overseer of Temple of Praise Worship Center in North Little Rock, Arkansas. I am in law enforcement. I started my law enforcement career down at Pine Bluff in 2010. And now I currently work at the Criminal Justice Institute in Little Rock. I am a youth mental health first aid instructor. I am a CRACE instructor, which is civilian response to active shooters. So pretty much like an active shooter instructor as well. I'm also a licensed funeral director, and I currently do part-time at the Lone Oak Police Department. As you can see that I am on duty now, but however, it's an honor to be a part of this panel discussion with all these great and wonderful people. I am a husband of 13 years. I believe it's 13 years.
Get it right. You better get it right.
Yes, 13. And I'm a father of 3, 2 girls and a boy. And I'm just happy. I'm just blessed and all of that to be a part of this. When we're talking about the youth mental health first aid, I travel to different school districts around the state of Arkansas, different police departments and everything. And I educate administration. I educate school resource officers on how to deal with an adolescent who is experiencing a mental health crisis. And I'm also working on trying to get that out to parents as well, to hold some classes so parents could be knowledgeable on how to handle their children with a mental disorder. So that is just a little synopsis about my career and what I do.
Amen. Well, that's a lot of things you're doing there. I appreciate all of you. You are very qualified, amen, to elaborate and extend our understanding of what this podcast is for. I thank you, Apostle Jenkins. I first like to say I was listening to Dr. David Williams, and he gave some statistics. And we are dealing with African-American community and all that we do, because we need that extra help. I'm always reminded, there's people that are sick, but you got to look after the ones that are sicker. And so we go with Connected in Unity. This is how we establish our who we are going to help in this global world that we're sitting in, and being able to proceed in the future. Well, Dr. Williams said this right here. Dr. Williams said this right here. He said that for every dollar that white people get, we as African Americans only get 59 cents. Now you just think about that. He did this research, and the disparity showing that because of the economic stance of the African Americans, we are more jeopardized, or we are jeopardized to going into different health issues because we don't have the money to do so. And I was listening to him, and he gave these different examples of, you know, if I go to the store to get medicine for myself, I can't spend but $200. And you say, well, that's a lot of money, but we know medicine is not cheap. But a white counterpart goes to the same store, but they have $1,000 to spend, so they have a lot more medicine that is afforded to them. And by that, by this pandemic hitting us, it has hit us disparately. I mean, it's just, we are dying at a higher rate compared to our population in the community. And so what I want to do today is come down to community and then break out to our extended community. And what I mean is, like, we're talking about our young people here in our community, whether it's Pine Bluff, Little Rock, and then showing that it still mirrors what's going on from East Coast to West Coast. And with that being said, there's a lot of things that has hit us with this COVID, and some of the things are spiritual. And I believe that it has caused us to think differently, maybe even about church, even about attending church. There's a lot of things that this pandemic has caused to hit us. And Pastor Jenkins, I think that you would have a great knowledge, a great hold on this, and to see what it has not only affected in your church, but some of your pastor friends' church, what y'all have talked about, and how this pandemic has hit. Could you just give us something on that?
Yes, sir. I must say that this has been the first time that I have pastored during a crisis or epidemic like this.
Yes.
It was new to all of us, and we had to take some necessary measures in making sure that everybody, including ourselves, was safe. It was a stressful time as a pastor, and I believe that I could speak for a lot of the clergy, men and women who are leaders and have a congregation, that it was a stressful time, because it wasn't in the handbook on how to pastor during a pandemic.
Yes.
And so I could say for me, it tested our faith, even as a community, and even as a church. It tested our faith to where a lot of people, they started falling away from the church. They allowed this thing to cripple their faith in the Lord. And I know a lot of people may not like to talk about religion and church when they do webinars and Zooms, but I'm that person that I'm going to always talk about the good Lord and how he has brought us through, how he has made a way, how he has sustained us. And one thing that I can say, even though some people, they strayed away from the faith, maybe because their faith wasn't as strong as the next person. And one thing that I never did as a pastor was talk down on them. One thing that I did was reach out to them and encourage them to let them know, listen, it's okay. You know, if you need to take some time and tune in virtually. That was another thing that was new. Just streaming online service, preaching to an empty church. That was very new. And I never had experienced that. And during that time, that taught me, I can't speak for a lot of pastors, but I can speak for me, that it taught me how to be humble. that you don't always need a crowd to get the word through. And I'm grateful for that experience. Is it over? No, it's not over. We just know how to deal with it, but don't allow it to cripple our faith and our relationship in God. And one thing that I tell the members all the time, listen, if God made a way before, he's the same God that can make a way again. So there's nothing wrong with taking precautionary measures to keep yourself safe. It's real. I cannot say that it's not real. My grandmother passed from COVID. I've had other family members that had COVID. COVID have visited my own home, but God is good. We overcame it, with his help. So I can't say that it's not real, but when I look at it, how things are opening back up, pretty much the world is opening back up things, sporting events, but there's still a lack in the church.
Yes.
And the question is, what's wrong? And I want people to know and understand that church is not the only place, where you can get COVID. You could take all the precautionary measures. You can wear a mask, you can sanitize, and you can still catch it.
Yes.
But it seemed like only when it comes to the church, there is a fear when it comes to the African American community, that there is a fear. Well, no, I can't, I'm not going, I'm just going to tune in. But if there's leisure, traveling, restaurants, shopping, sporting events, they'll pack it out. But it's only the church. And I really do believe that, and it has been stated, talking to different clergy, brothers and sisters of the cloth, that, all of this happened for us, for the Lord to get our attention. It's not something that just happened by accident. But it was done for the Lord to get our attention, because so much is going on in the world. This world is corrupt, and it's just so much is happening, this and that. And people, they have their own views about it. But I take it as a warning that, okay, the Lord is trying to get our attention. So let me shut everything down. And maybe they will come back to their senses. Maybe they will do things better than what they did at first. And maybe, they'll get some act right about themselves. And it worked for a little moment. But when everything started opening up, it seemed like people just going back to the normal things besides church. And I believe that there has become a disconnect somewhere, to where the African American community is scared to come to church, but not scared to go anywhere else. And my thing is, I'd rather go to church and knowing that that's where the power is at to heal all kind of manner of sickness and disease, than to be out everywhere else enjoying myself and not assembling in worship with my fellow brothers and sisters. So that there has become a disconnect in that, and still trying to wonder, okay, you could go here, you could go there, but why is it such a problem? Why is it such an issue in coming to church? And and it's like we cannot find the answers to that, but it's just, people's choices. And so even
So
now,
would you say that would be a state of fear that has caused us to do that? And if that's the state of fear, then it should not just permeate just in the church. It should permeate in other places.
It should, but it's not.
Yeah. Ms. Shields, do you see it from a political point of view? I mean, from not just politics, but from being
Right.
out in the general public.
Right, absolutely. You on mute.
You're on mute. You're on mute.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's
So
all right.
one of the things yeah, that's okay. Thank you. One of the things that I wanted to share, and mine is not from the perspective of the church,
Yes.
like the pastors, but I just want to share from the perspective of our community, our people, and why so many of us have not taken the vaccine or the booster. There is a lack of trust. We don't trust the government. And we have legitimate reasons not to trust the government.
Yes.
So those fears are real. Those concerns are valid. And I understand that I am vaccinated, I am boosted, and I am waiting on the next booster. Okay. I'm a little bit over 50 and I have a couple of underlying conditions. And so I weighed it out and knew that I needed to take the vaccine. However, I also understand, and one of the messages we need your listeners and your viewers to understand is just because you take the vaccine and the booster, you do all the things that Pastor Michael was saying, you still may get COVID, but the thing about it, you may not end up in the hospital, and you may not end up on a ventilator, and your life may be spared. Okay. Right. So people who have received the vaccinations, the boosters, who are still taking precautions and still get COVID, they are living. Okay, they're not being in the hospital, they aren't going on ventilators, and they aren't dying. Now, there are some cases, I do understand.
Right.
So that's the message, right? So that's the message I want to share. So from, like I said, from the government, we have reason, our community have reason to not trust the government, okay? But in this instance, there's not a group of people or it's just a certain group that's being singled out for experiment, like the government has did with us in the past. Okay. Right. This is a global crisis.
Absolutely.
And so these, vaccinations have been proven to work. Okay. So that's one of the things I say to people, because I talk to people on the regular about being protected, getting vaccinated, getting boosted. And, like I said, we're all getting the same, you choose, which one you want, but we're all getting the same one. We're not being singled out. So that's one of the biggest fears. Although, you started out talking about the inequities in pay, the inequities in healthcare, the quality of healthcare, all of those are real. They are real. We do have inequities in access to healthcare. But even in this pandemic, we've had mobile units that have driven around. We had vaccination clinics in our communities, in our neighborhoods, where we are comfortable. Okay, so my message is that we want to encourage as many people as possible to go ahead and take the vaccine. There's a campaign now to encourage people to take the booster, because you have people who take the vaccine who won't take the booster. So yeah, that's. Oh, are you one of those?
Yeah,
I'm not gonna put you on the spot. I'm not gonna put you on the spot.
Don't do me.
Okay. Well, but that's my message, So I was asked to come share my experiences.
Absolutely.
And being in the community, like I said, I am I do have doing some work with this, and I can't think of the name of the coalition right now with UAMS. But we are having those conversations and encouraging people, and just doing what we can to make sure our community is safe, because we are losing people unnecessarily, and I've had COVID. I had COVID before there was a vaccine. I had a rough go of it for a while. I heard Pastor Michael say he lost his grandmother to COVID. I lost my grandmother to COVID early on, so we have all been impacted in some way by COVID.
Yes, I hear two things, and they kind of mesh together: fear and trust. You have this fear and trust of the government that's supposed to protect you, but you don't have that full trust, because we have seen in our growing up. I'm a little bit older than you all. I'm 55, so I've seen a little bit more than some of you, but I've seen where things that are said are really not the truth. And so we are supposed to trust these entities that say these things, but it's never the truth for us. This is why we have that disparity of healthcare, and it is an imperative that we come together and unify to even build our communities up. I say that the old African proverbs, it take a village to raise a child. And my stance is that we don't have a village. So what child can we raise? And so we look at our children, we say, man, they're going amok. They don't, they don't do what we do. I mean, and these are mostly our teenagers, our kids, and things like that. But yet and still, they're going through the same thing that we're going through. The educational system, I think, has really been uncovered with the pandemic, because it has allowed everyone to see exactly what our children are doing. Not only exactly what they're doing, but exactly what the school is not doing. And so from that point of view, I know Ms. Adam has a wealth of knowledge on that. And I just, this COVID, how did it affect us? I for one, went virtual for a while. So, I mean, how did?
I think what we already knew to be true, as if there was an achievement gap that we already knew was apparent before COVID. What we learned during COVID was that it just highlighted the fact that we still had not fixed the issue that we said that as a country we had worked on and we had made solutions to support. I learned that the opportunity gap was heightened even more during COVID for students of color, especially living in rural communities. Kids who went virtual with no broadband, no access to internet. They were already struggling previously, trying to learn in a system that was conditioned not for African-American students anyway. And then you send them virtually to support them, and they don't have access to the materials. That heightened the fact that it was inequity. So we had a lack of access, opportunity, and equity during COVID-19, and we learned that. Not only did we learn that on an academic standpoint, but we also learned emotionally that our students began to have heightened levels of anxiety, depression, isolation. Like, they begin to feel those issues outside of the classroom, because now I'm at home experiencing what I was experiencing in the classroom and no one saw. And now I'm experiencing even more virtually, because I don't even have the resources that are adequate to even be a student. And so I think our educators learned that. In February, the National Education Association did a research. 55% of the educators who completed the survey said that they were contemplating leaving the profession at the end of this school year. And it was because our educators are perplexed. They are exhausted. They are overwhelmed. They want to do what's right for students, but they don't have the resources. And it's not that they don't have the skill set or the desire, but they don't have the resources to do it. And then through COVID, you have people leaving the profession. If we look at our counterparts, our white counterparts, they were able to leave at higher rates because of the privileges that they wore. However, a lot of our African-American educators have to stay because they have bills that they have to pay. So they don't have the option to do what it is that other people were able to do to survive during COVID. And now they are ready to leave, but cannot leave. And when our educators are taken care of, the students will be taken care of. But because our students can't be taken care of, our educators are struggling. And so I think COVID-19 was just an eye-opening for what we already knew to be true. We knew the system was not built for African-American students to begin with.
Yes,
And now we know even so much even beyond African-American students, the system isn't built for rural students. Students that are in rural communities can't learn virtually, right? Now we have urban and suburban schools who are able to do what they're able to do to support their students, but we just have not fixed the issues as it relates to education. I left the classroom prior to COVID, like about 8 months prior to COVID, I left the classroom. And what I learned throughout COVID was just that I was a virtual teacher. So even though I wasn't working for a K-12 system, I was working for a virtual organization that helped boost the capacity that schools needed during COVID. So I got to support students in Pennsylvania. What I learned was that those suburban schools had mothers and fathers who were right beside them, able to support them virtually. Whereas our students who were right in Palm Bluff, right in the urban areas, didn't have anyone at home to make sure that they could Zoom in at an 8 o'clock class, right? Or a 9 o'clock class. And so throughout that, just on that personal experience, I was able to learn that like there are some resources that we have to provide, like we don't have an option to provide them. You use the African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. I'm gonna use one that says a child not embraced by the village will burn it down for warmth. So if a child does not have the village there to embrace, they're gonna burn that village down in order to obtain the warmth that they need to get there. And so what we do is we hear right now, we have a lot of kids burning the village down because their mental issues are increasing, right? They're contemplating suicide, they're fighting more, they're engaged in activities that are not what we would like for them to do, but they are looking for a way to feel compassion. They are looking for a way to feel love. They are looking for a way to feel belonging because right now they don't have it anywhere. And so I just think that we have not done a due diligence for the education system, for our educators, our students, or our families through this tragedy.
So there's a lot that COVID has really uncovered that we as African Americans really saw before it even came. But it opened it up globally. I could say that because the experience that we experience here in America has allowed us to come to this point to where we are always on the bottom of every category, whatever it is, we're on the bottom. I don't care if it's ice cream we need to get, we're going to be on the bottom. But with that being said, and we're speaking to the people, letting them know that this COVID has caused a lot of mental issue, emotional issue, people being locked in one room or in their house. Some people don't go out. They're actually in and won't even communicate with. So they're going through issues that some of us are not going through. But as a whole, this is what we're going through. So then we understand that trust and fear and a sense of not enough resources has crippled us. What are some of the solutions? What are some of the solutions that we could possibly give to alleviate this or to bring us to a state where we need it? And I would accept the answer from anyone.
Yeah, I think that's the $1 million question. I think I lost. Can you still see me? Yeah. I think that's the $1 million question. Are solutions, and the solutions are not easy. We are going to have to fight through policy. And policy is where a lot of change happens. And activism. We've got an advocacy. We've got to be actively involved and engaged. Like I said, we knew the disparities that existed in, just like in education, But now the whole world got to see after COVID hit, because it was exposed. So we already knew that, but I just think we've got to, partner with groups, have these coalitions that will work on solutions. We've got, education, there's so much work that has to be done. I don't know what the solution is for people trusting the government, because our people just don't trust the government. And like I said, there are a lot of issues, but I don't know how you undo those layers when you still have the government fighting to suppress Black and brown people. So it's $1 million question. And I'd love for people who are watching your show to put thoughts, because I'll go back and watch, to put thoughts that they have in the chat, in the comments, so that we can start having those conversations, which we're having the conversations. It's long term. Let me say this, there's not a quick answer. It's long-term planning. Yes, long-term planning. And it can be done, but we're going to have to be diligent, and we've got to be intentional. It's not going to happen if we're not intentional.
Mm-hmm. And this is what this platform is set up. I have 3 pillars that I hold this up with: is education, economics, and politics. Those 3 things that I think are going to be the avenues that we need to bring this together in order to overcome these things. I don't have the answer. Like we said, we don't have the answer, but it's going to take a come to Jesus meeting in order for us to get there, because I think a lot of times we argue with egos. This is what keeps us from coming here to this place. But this pandemic has really heightened, and I think it even propelled us to come together. It has made us even more so, because we have to develop a new system, I believe, for the education. We have to develop a new system for the economic. We have to develop a new system for the politics, because everything that is already developed is developed to keep us down.
Right.
And yes, go ahead.
I think that one thing that I also learned is that, of course, we know in the African American community there was a stigma around mental health and the issue as it relates to self-care being normal, right? Taking care of yourself should be normal. It is not anything wrong with being able to articulate that you feel something that's abnormal from what you think healthy and healing and wholeness should be. We as a community did not understand that. And I still think that, and don't get me wrong, I do believe that prayer works, right? And we know that we spoke that language for years, like just pray about it, just pray about it. And I'm a young believer, but I still know that in COVID-19, I learned that prayer works, but my therapist does too.
Yes.
Nothing wrong.
It's really okay to seek additional resources to feel good again, right? Because COVID took you through a year where you didn't know who you are, what was going on, or what was going to happen. So you had to get back to a place of feeling normal again. And that may have required something that you wouldn't normally do. And so I think that as a community, we had to learn those things, and we're still learning those things and grasping those things. But I also learned that we have to learn how to find allies. We know, and we're learning how to come together as a community, but there are other people who don't necessarily look like us and view things the way we do, that do believe that they can be a part of the solution for our students. And we have to find allies and accomplices who are going to help us make those policy changes, because we don't always have a seat at the table as people of color, but there are our counterparts who do have a seat at the table, who can advocate and articulate for us when we're not there. And we kind of have to, I'm not saying kissing behind and rubbing back, but I am saying tell them what you want to see happen and push them and challenge them to make demands so that it does happen. But you have to be where you need to be first. And so I think we got to eliminate some of those stigmas around getting back to us, because if we don't get back to us, we will forever lose us in the next generation to come.
Yes, you said something about us not taking, by us not taking, going to therapy and stuff like that. We were taught to do that and I'm going back to the 60s, 70s, but I mean, before then, they were taught, whatever happens in the household, stay in the household. If Uncle Johnny is raping his niece every night, we don't want to say nothing about it. And so we have developed a mindset. We don't go to therapy or anything like that because we can keep it in the household. And of course, we're going to pray about it. You're going to pray about something, but you don't want to give the help that God has afforded you to get. So then, I'm all right with praying. I'm all right with doing that. But then without that works, it's just like faith without works is no good. It's praying without works is no good. There ain't no need of me praying for a job and sitting in my living room hoping that somebody would come to my door and knock on my door and say, I got a job for you. Now I say, thank you, Jesus. But if I prayed and went on to where I need to go, put some applications in, put some resumes in, God can work with me.
Right.
You're absolutely right.
Come on, yeah, brother. Come on with it.
Well, I don't know how much more I can say because Miss Adams just shut it down. Miss Seal gave the appetizer, and the only thing I could just do is just give the benediction because what else more is it to say? But I agree with everything. That something, as Miss Seal stated, something has got to be done, and I want our African American people to know that it's not going to happen overnight, but we're going to need your participation as well. Because even when this first happened, when the vaccines and stuff came out, I was leery about it. It took me a while. It took my wife and I a while before we made the decision to get vaccinated. Why? Because in our minds, we thought, okay, it's too quick. We didn't have enough knowledge on it. And, other pastors was encouraging their congregation, go get vaccinated. You can't come to church unless you have been vaccinated. Well, I was doing the opposite. Only thing I would tell them is do what's best for you. Pray, do what's best for you. I can't tell you what to do because in my mind, I was on the fence about it. I was unsure, like, okay, I really don't know and all of that. But, my wife and I, we really just sat down and we talked about it and was like, listen, let's go ahead on and do it. We trust God overall, but at the end of the day, let's go ahead on and let's make that step, and try to encourage others, to make that step as well. And even though we've taken it, COVID still visited our home again. But we took all the necessary precautions, did what we had to do. We overcame it. Still living life. It wasn't as severe. But hey, we bounced back from it, kept living life, hey, and just tried to educate others on it. So it's not no quick fix. As Ms. Seal stated, Ms. Adams, said the same thing, and she hit it on the head. It's okay, dealing with this because it have caused a lot of mental issues when COVID hit. It caused a lot with educators, parents, because we had to work from home. And I hate working from home because I get lazy. I like being in the office. So it was different. We had to, pretty much homeschool, even though they was virtual, but still had to be there, keep them motivated. And it was a lot. And just thinking about those that didn't have the necessary resources, we never been like this before. So it was new for all of us. So we had to navigate our way through it and everything. And but as time went on, vaccines and all that stuff, things started happening and unfolding. Life started opening, world started opening back up. But still, when it comes to the church, there's still a void. And I don't know
Amen.
what it's going to take. And overall, it's just fear. It's fear that have creeped in, but my messages haven't changed. More so now, encouraging people throughout all of this.
Man.
Encouraging them to overall keep the faith, keep trusting and believing. And it's all right to go see a therapist and talk about it. But pride, that stigma is holding people back. Well, no, I'm okay. No, you're not okay. It's okay. It's okay to worship and praise God and to go lay up on the therapist's couch at the same time. It is okay. It is okay.
And that needs to be taught from the pulpit. That
Absolutely.
The church has really vanished since the 90s and 80s. I'm just being truthful. It's not the same. It's not that. When you need help,
it's a high turnover rate, and that's why pastors are committing suicide. That's why pastors are leaving the ministry. That there's a big turnover rate, when it comes to pastors, because they haven't dealt with this before. They don't know how to handle it, but pride keeps them from seeking help. You can't lead nobody, and you are struggling. Your mind is everywhere. How can you encourage and lead somebody else? It's okay to be a child of God and also go seek help yourself, because when you seek help, you can be able to help somebody else.
Right. One of the things I want to close with, because I know we are wrapping up, but
yes, I'm getting ready to wrap up now. But go ahead, say what you have.
Oh, okay. So in closing,
yes, go ahead. Yes.
In closing, I do want to lift up the mental health piece. We have a nonprofit that we work with, and we're doing education around that. It is important to seek mental health counseling. I've been in mental health counseling for 12 years. And I share my story when the opportunity arises. So people, and I do that as part of trying to help rid the stigma around mental illnesses. They're real. If you need, you may not have a mental illness, you just may need, 3 months or 6 months of therapy, Yes. But COVID has brought about a lot of the more and more of a need. So let's help rid the stigma. For those that are watching your show, let me encourage you. Like I said, I've been receiving mental health therapy, and I take medication because I do have a mental health diagnosis for 12 years, but I still live my life. Okay. I still do what I need to do. I live a very productive life. And, but I'm a person of faith. I'm also a person of faith. Prayer is good. Prayer is in order, but you need that clinical help from a therapist.
That work behind it.
Exactly. So I do want to encourage everybody that's listening, because both Pastor Michael and Miss Adams have they said it, the stigma is real. The stigma is real, but our people need help, so we've got to do a better job in our community, lifting up the importance of
mental
seeking help, mental health treatment. So
and before we go, and I'm sorry, Miss Adams, but if you can give us about 15 seconds of your therapy, because that's speaking to what Miss Sheila is saying, and then just give us about 15 seconds.
Yes. So if I had one thing I wanted to leave with, I would say broken children become broken adults, hurt children become hurt adults, and hurt people hurt people. And so until our community and our kids can feel whole and healed again, We will forever have broken, hurt people. And it's time for us to get back to a place that our culture has never actually ever been before. We've never been whole and healed before. As a culture, we've never been there. And so it's time for us to fight to a place and a space and get there, because we can no longer be hurt.
All right, thank you. I thank you, Ms. Adams. I thank all of you all, Ms. Seals, Brother Jenkins, and Ms. Adams, for coming and spending your time. I'm pretty sure that this people, I want you to like and share this. And this is a wealth of knowledge that's coming practically to people to see them. And I thank you from all your different perspectives. I pray that God will bless you in your different professions, and that he would open up doors for you. We look forward to seeing you again on Connecting in Unity.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.